All right, welcome to another episode of Couch to Champion. This will be part five. We're at the halfway point. We are already on our way to the 5K, and the first half is done. This is the midpoint update. This will be an update for mostly May, I believe, but some June, some June. Um, Took a lot to get this episode out. There's been a lot going on in life for me. Just tons of distractions. It's been pouring rain, tornadoes, things like that over here in West Texas, and it's just crazy. There's been a lot. I haven't been able to get to the gym. Kind of dealing with some midpoint struggles, which I'll share. And it's this is a really interesting episode in my opinion because originally I was going to talk about some new habits, some new goals, some things I was going to try and work on for June. But here we are, June, and I decided to kind of pivot. I pivoted the entire outline because there's just so much that I wanted to talk about. A lot of things going on in life that I wanted to share. And, maybe if there's somebody out there dealing with the same issues, this would be a good episode to kind of listen to and maybe hear somebody who's going through the same things. This episode is it's not about burnout. I've already done my burnout episode. I'm not burnout. It's more about disappointment, specifically disappointment in myself. Because over the last few weeks, I've just been coasting spiritually, mentally, physically. I've kind of taken my foot off the gas, and the results are kind of starting to speak for themselves. This episode's going to be pretty raw. There's no highlight reel, no, oh, I'm so far in, we're halfway there, and I'm just, crushing it. Because frankly, I'm not. And this is just going to be the honest truth about where I'm at for the halfway point. And I'll admit, I've been kind of drifting. I've been kind of feeling demotivated and coasting. And there's been a lot of lessons I've learned just over the past week that I'd really like to share. So, starting out, let's take a look in the mirror. In general, they say that 80% of running is mental and only about 10% is physical. If that's true, then my struggle makes perfect sense. Because honestly, the mental side of this thing has been an absolute war zone. I've recently looked in the mirror, and to be honest, I didn't really like what I saw. Not just physically, but who I've become lately. Breaking it down physically, honestly, I'm not fat. I know I'm not fat. I'm sure a lot of people out there are looking at me like, dude, you're skinnier than half the people in the world, and yet you're calling yourself fat. Why I say I am is because this time last year I was sitting around 175, 165, and I was feeling good. To me, being fat means I don't feel healthy, and I've packed on some pounds and I've packed on some inches, and I'm not happy about that. I looked in the mirror and said, I had a really, really hard look and just said, I'm fat. I am. And, I'm I'm heavier now than I was when I first started this whole thing. And I'm really disappointed in that. This has just not been my journey of losing weight. And I haven't really done a very good job physically. I haven't been going to the gym consistently. I haven't been pushing consistently to lose the weight. Mentally, I've really, really let doubt and disappointment camp out in my brain. I've given myself the permission to kind of just slack off. I haven't really pushed hard. I've done what I kind of call gentle training. It's okay. It's all right. You can, if you want to skip, you can skip. It's all good. You've got time. That kind of, that bull crap. is essentially what it is. Because honestly, I don't have time. We're at the halfway point, and I don't have the time to just slack. The longer that I don't push myself at the gym or in the running game or anything like that, the more that my competition has the advantage over me. And I've really given them a head start. And that's not good, you know? And emotionally, I've been so gentle with myself. I've stopped holding myself accountable, you know? Like I said, the gentle training. I've given myself permission to be okay with not doing that much. And some people may say, oh, it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to be that way sometimes. You can't always do everything always all the time or you'll get injured. Yes, that is true. But there's also a balance point in the middle. On one side, it's okay when things happen. But on the other hand, when you make excuses because things that happen, then you're just making excuses. And that is what I've been doing, making excuses. And my training has reflected that. I haven't done a mock 5K since February, and I did a pretty bad job in February. And to me, that means that I've got a long way to go and a really short amount of time to get there. And that's my fault. And I'm owning up to that. I should have been training this whole time. I should have been pushing myself. I should have been giving myself more effort. And I haven't. I'm stuck in what I kind of call the gray zone. So I'm not fully on, but I'm not fully off either. I am doing stuff. I'm kind of just floating in this lukewarm middle ground where I'm showing up enough to just feel like I'm trying, but not really enough to change anything. Like I mentioned earlier, it's kind of what I call gentle training. I'm doing the work, but with no real intensity, no real focus, no grit. I'm just checking boxes and hopefully it magically clicks. Hopefully the pounds fall off and, I get faster and faster. It's not working. It's a dangerous place to be, that gray zone. It gives you the illusion of effort, but robs you of real growth. I've been given opportunities over the past month of May. I bought some new shoes, which there will be a review over shortly. And these are running shoes. These are really good shoes. And I've kind of adapted those shoes as a new identity. When I lace those up, I'm in the zone. This is my chance. When I put these on, it's like I'm putting on my armor to go to war. That's kind of what those shoes have become to me. And I haven't really done that. I've been given, this podcast platform to share my thoughts, share my heart, share my opinions, and I've procrastinated a lot. This episode was really difficult to get out alone. There was a lot going on, and I really struggled. But here we are. I managed. I got it out. It's done. It's over with, and you guys can learn from it. I've kind of had to adjust my own personal schedule a little bit to be able to get this out and push for it. But here we are. It's late, but it's here. As long as I'm showing up, that's what matters. I've got the 5K to train for. Resources, others would kill for, and I've kind of just taken them and just been like, whatever, I've got all the time in the world. It is what it is. I'll get there eventually. I'll race the 5K, but there's no real change. And I've wasted a lot of time in that first half. Really have. I really have wasted time. But starting today, we're going to change that. So moving forward to what am I doing now? What's been my mindset shift since I've kind of looked in the mirror and realized that I'm gentle training. Growth doesn't show up when things are easy. It shows up on the rainy days, on the days you'd rather hit snooze than show up at the gym. It shows up on the days when nobody's watching. I've realized that I've kind of been training like someone trying to become a runner, but not somebody who already is a runner. And that's got to change. I've kind of learned over the past few weeks, like I've mentioned, that I'm only tapping into 10% of my potential. And I'm not giving it my full effort. I am made for more. You are made for more than what you're putting in the effort for. Why would God give you the ability or the passion or the desire to do something and then you just take it and half-ass it? Why would he do that? He wouldn't. God equips you for what he calls you for. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to take some real effort on your end to make it happen. And that's what I haven't been doing. I came across a concept that I'm calling the champion's mindset. It's something that I first learned reading Ronda Rousey's biography, My Fight, Your Fight. Fantastic book. Highly suggest you read her story. And the basic concept is that you train like a champion before you ever win anything. You show up like you've already earned your place, even if the world hasn't handed it to you yet. No foe is ever as hard as the one you fight in your training, and that's you. So if you fight yourself and you are the hardest opponent, then no one should even have the potential ability to beat you. They can't. You're going to always be harder on yourself than anybody else is going to be on you. Going back to the champion's mindset, show up a winner. Not because you're going to win, but because you already have won. You show up on that ring like she did, or on that track, and you say, I've already won this race. Now I'm just going to go collect my trophy. That's the mindset that I'm switching to. And I know that it's kind of contrasting what I have been preaching over the time of, I'm just there to run. I am. You're right. I'm expecting to run this race, and finishing this race will give me the feeling of accomplishment. But in order for me to get to the top of this race, to win this race, I have to have and adopt this champion's mindset. A good example of this is my most recent current job. So where I'm currently working, I prepared like I belonged there. Before I got this interview, I was reading What Color Is Your Parachute? Phenomenal book. Highly suggest you read it. Learning about interviews, learning about all these things. I've already had done maybe like 5 or 6 interviews before that, and I already had it down. I was already in the process, and I was already, just confident. I walked in there with confidence, and that completely shifted my energy. That confidence expressed itself as, I got this. This is whatever. I got this, man. I mean, I walked in there calm. I walked in there focused and locked in. And you know what? I ended up getting the job. I beat out people who had every qualification better than me. That mindset has carried me through and reminded me that how you train, how you show up internally, that's going to shape the outcome externally. If you show up defeated, you're going to be defeated. But if you show up a winner, you show up victorious, you show up confident that you've already won this thing, that you're already prepared, you already have it in the bag, then nothing's going to stop you. Like I said, you're never going to fight anybody harder than yourself. Fight yourself in training, show up, and tick people off the list, man. You've got this in the bag. You already know you've got this in the bag. Show up with that attitude. It's going to change your life, I promise you. Like I said earlier, that same mentality is kind of what I shifted to for this 5K. I've already won this 5K. I already believe in my heart of hearts that I'm going to be victorious on this 5K because I feel in my spirit that I've already won this thing. I'm just going to show up to collect my medal. That's it. David Goggins says that when you think you've hit your max, you've really only tapped into about 40% of your true potential. And for me, that's really been deeply convicting because I've only really been operating at 40%, maybe 50 on a good day, but I've never really pushed all the way into discomfort. I've kind of just, I got my workout in for the day. It didn't really hurt, but I got it in, checking a box. And that's not where you need to be in training, especially not now on the second half of this training for this 5K. I've got to get into that place where you're not just fighting for a hard workout. You're not fighting for that pump. You're not pushing because you need that, joy of looking at yourself and saying, man, I look ripped right now. It's not about that. You are, and me at least, are fighting yourself. You're fighting for the person that you want to become. That runner, that man, that woman that has already got everything you want. That's who you're fighting for. You are fighting yourself to become that person. Every single time you step into that gym, every single time you step on that track, it's about becoming that person. And I've discovered at this midway point that I've grieved that person. I want to be that person so bad, and I'm so disappointed in myself all the time because I'm just not it yet. Over the past week, when I go into the gym now, my mindset is I'm going to become this person. Nothing's going to stand in my way. If I walk out of the gym and I'm not sore the next day, I didn't do enough, and I need to work harder the next time. Granted, you need to do this in balanced enough to where you don't hurt yourself. I'm not overdoing it, but also, push yourself past the point of discomfort. If you're comfortable, you're not doing it right. It shouldn't be comfortable. Everything in your training should be uncomfortable because growth comes through discomfort. What I did start doing is intermittent fasting, for one, which is a way to cut calories and push myself past the point of discomfort with hunger. If I'm hungry, telling myself, don't eat, you can't eat until 1, that mentality is going to play a part when I'm on the track running that 5K race. Because when my legs start hurting, my knees start hurting, I need to be able to tell myself, you're only halfway there, keep pushing. Or the finish line is only 200 meters left. You only have 200 meters left. Push. That push mentality, that champion's mindset. I need to be able to develop that in training so that on the track, I'm not trying to figure it out. It has to translate. I know there's more in me. I feel it. I know it. Not just in my muscles, but in my faith, in my identity, in my calling. It's time to stop flirting with discipline and start living like the man I know that I'm supposed to become. This is my mission to become the new me. That's why this whole thing started. That is my why. Because I want to be better. I want to be a champion. That is why I started this podcast, started this series, started this 5K race, because I want to be a champion. I wanted to get from the place I was to the person that I wanted to become. And that person is a winner. I know that a lot of that sounds, out there, but you have to get to that point, especially now on the halfway point, because honestly, I'm at the point where the hype of starting is over. The honeymoon phase. It's not really exciting anymore. It is exciting. I can't say that entirely, but the hype of something new, I'm not discovering it anymore. So that's over. But I'm still so early that I am not seeing results yet. This is where people either fail or they grow. Because the only way to get past this point, the only way to get past the midway phase, is to push, is to be consistent, is to keep going even if you don't feel like it. My motivation has sunk. I have felt so demotivated for the podcast, for the gym, for all of that. But you know what? I've showed up every single month, every single week. I've just been showing up, despite how I feel, despite how my mind, or how bad I really want it or don't want it. Deep down, I know that, this is who I'm supposed to become. And the only way to get there is to push past and to push and to train. And so motivation isn't going to get me there. because motivation is fickle. It'll either be there or it won't. And that's the sad part, is a lot of people rely solely on motivation, but motivation alone is not enough because it will fail you. There is a certain point, and I am at that point, when your motivation isn't going to be there. Not until you start seeing results again and you can start saying, oh man, this is really paying off. And then you push harder and harder, and then bam, you're at the end game. You know, this is the point where I have to be consistent. I have to rely on the consistency. I have to rely on the discipline part of what I've been building, not the motivation. This is where I really have to hone in on my why. You know, earlier I mentioned that part of the purpose of me doing this was to grow and to be a new person. That's exactly why I'm doing this. That is my why. That is my core purpose for doing this. The podcast, the series, things like that are really just ways for me to be accountable. But my core why is I want to be better than I was. And when I cross that finish line, I know that I will be changed. I already feel it. I'm already starting to see it. I'm already seeing differences from when I started to now. And I'm only halfway there. So I know that if I keep this up, I'm going to get there. But you have to show up. If you don't get anything out of this podcast episode, get this. Show up anyway. Always show up. Never stop showing up. That is the key. That is how you get past your slump, your midway slump. That is how you get started. And that is how you finish. You just keep showing up. Ignore your feelings. Ignore your emotions. Ignore even your mindset. Just show up. And I promise you that it's going to pay off. One day. Just keep going. I think it's easy to forget just how far you've come. And when all you do is focus on how far you still have left to go, sometimes that can really burn out your fire. You know, lately I've gone back and I've kind of watched some of my old videos. You know, there are the past 4 episodes of Couch to Champion, and they reminded me of something important. That version of me didn't have everything figured out. He was nervous, hesitant, unsure, but he showed up. He got off the couch. He took the first step. He decided, I'm going to do a 5K, and he signed up for the daggum thing. He decided that he's not going to let external circumstances stop him anymore. He did it. That person is the only reason I'm here talking today. And I have to respect that. I have to reflect on that. I have to look back and honor that. And take that and say, if I could do it then I need to do it now. Because showing up is probably the hardest thing in any journey towards who you want to become. Look back, remind yourself where you were, and respect where you are now. You know, I've really learned to kind of open up about my struggles in ways I was never used to, you know. In the past, I would bury the hard stuff and try to push through it quietly and only share things after it was polished and cleaned up and tied with a nice pretty bow. But this series really changed that. You know, I'm learning to be comfortable in front of a camera. I'm learning to talk about things, and I'm learning to open up, and it's translating in and outside of the social media phase, you know, or social media world. I'm learning to do this in my job. I'm learning to do this in the real world, and it's helping me become a better me, you know. And the only reason that I can do that now is because every single month I've consistently got in front of this camera and talked. And you know, I still have things that I'm insecure about, you know, but there's elements of these videos I look back and I cringe at myself because I'm like, oh, why am I still doing that? And it frustrates me because I wish I wasn't doing that, but I'm showing up every month doing it. I am starting to let people see the mess in real time, whether it's inconsistency, spiritual drift, falling short of what I said I'd do. And instead of, feeling shamed and ashamed and feeling, worthless like I used to, now I'm starting to kind of find strength in that honesty, keeping me accountable by putting this stuff out there and saying, I was there once, but now look at where I've come. Look at how far I've come. Look at how much I've grown. I'm starting to, build real habits, not just in training, but, and owning my story, owning who I am. And even when I slip, I recognize it faster and I respond instead of just running away from it. And that shift alone is a huge win. I'm learning to deal with things. I'm learning to overcome. I'm learning to challenge my own thought processes sometimes and push through things. I've gotten off the couch. It might sound simple, but it's everything. I've gotten off the couch. I remember before I started this, the person I was, overthinking, doubting, delaying, procrastinating, the person that wouldn't do anything, was just lazy and didn't care and didn't have any accountability and just, didn't skip the gym and just said, whatever, who cares anyway. But now, I'm learning to find the perseverance, the dedication, the discipline to do the hard things. And that has gotten me further than being lazy ever has. This is where real change begins. Understanding that making that choice to show up and consistently showing up every single day is change, is growth, and will result in conquering your fears, conquering your doubts, conquering your giants. This 5K is a giant, but I'm going to accomplish it. I'm fasting. I'm pushing myself harder at the gym now. I recognize the problem and I'm tackling it head on instead of saying, "Oh, it is what it is. Guess I failed." No. I'm pushing because I want to be a runner. I want to win this race. I want to see that trophy, that medal hanging on my shelf and say, "I did that and I worked hard for that. And I got there and I succeeded." And you know what? If I don't see that trophy on my shelf, instead of beating myself up because I didn't win, I'm going to say, next year, next one, the next one. I'm going to win the next one. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to push harder. Because next time I'm going to have a trophy. I'm going to put that medal on my shelf. This next one is my victory lap. And I'm going to work for it. And I'm going to try harder. And I'm going to do better. Because that is somebody who chooses growth over conformity. Don't settle for the status quo, because the status quo will get you nowhere. Push. This has kind of been a short episode, and honestly, part of that is because I'm very late on it, and so I'm going to have part 6 coming out probably in the next couple weeks anyway. So if you made it to the end of this podcast, thank you, seriously. This one wasn't really easy, but I think it was necessary. We all hit walls. We all drift. We all wake up one day and realize, we've been showing up as a lesser version of ourselves. And that's where I've been. But I'm not staying there. I'm done living in that gray zone. I'm done giving 40%. I'm done sidelining God when I know he's supposed to be the center of everything that I do. I can't leave him out. He's got to be a part of this. He is more my purpose than anything else. And that's another thing that I failed to mention. Discover your purpose. Know who you are. Know what your calling is, because once you know that, once you grasp that, that is going to carry you through every battle you ever face in life. Part of my midpoint self-reflecting journey is discovering that, this podcast, my 5K, whatever the platform, my goal is to see other people succeed, see other people learn, see other people grow, and help them through that. That is why I'm here. That is why I'm doing this every single day. And that is what's carrying me, pushing me through this training, pushing me through the hard days, pushing me to do a workout when I don't feel like doing it, pushing me to win this 5K. It's for you guys. Because your gifts are never for you. Your gifts are for other people. And if my gift is to be able to light other people up, then I can't do that on the couch, sitting in front of a screen, munching on Cheetos. I'm going to do it out there. I'm going to do it on the track. I'm going to do it on social media. I'm going to do it however it best reaches everybody else, you know? And if you've been drifting too, if you've been struggling, own your mess. Honor your progress. This is your wake-up call. Let's do something about it together. You know, rise up. Decide today to change. Don't wait, because if you wait, you're not going to do it. Decide today and do it. Make that change. Make that decision today. Pursue, especially when it hurts. You know, and stay consistent at all costs. Embrace the suck. Do hard things. And conquer. Conquer your fears. Conquer your doubts. Conquer that past version of yourself that said you couldn't do it. Conquer you. Be a better you. This is your challenge. I challenge you today to pursue the you that you never let yourself be. I challenge you today to get up, get after it, and get it done. Thank you guys for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it was a little different. It was a little different for me. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Hang in there. Rise, pursue, conquer, and chase every mile. Thanks.